Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Berkowitz Apartment Letters. Yes. It's great to see everyone out there. So today is, of course, part 4 of, 4 episodes. We are done today with this little mini series that we've dubbed the Berkowitz Apartment Letters. So, of course, my hope is that those of you who are truly interested in this subject have gone to the Queen's DA files, looked at these letters yourself, analyzed them, got them into your head, got them into your consciousness, and all that kind of stuff. Because once you start reading these letters, you realize, number one, that Berkowitz was the lone killer in Son of Sam, and number two, he had no problem writing the Breslin and Borelli letters and all that kind of stuff. So it's very important, of course, that you guys do, well, a lot of the research yourself. I try to educate and entertain, but I also try to, give you a guide as to how you can go about doing this yourself as well. All right, so good to see. Well, actually, great to see everybody out there in the chat. We got quite a bit to do today, so we might as well just get on into it. I got no programming notes, nothing immediately upcoming on the horizon. So let's just get right into it. The Berkowitz Apartment Letters, Part 4. And of course, today I started with this little graphic. This is my sister's new dog, Rosie. Poor thing. This poor dog was abused. Another one of these rescue dogs. And my sister had just refused to give it a little bit of food when it was begging. So poor little Rosie was sulking. This little deformed thing is super cute. But anyway, so I decided to change it up a little bit and just show this cute little dog rather than the nasty German shepherds and gross stuff like that that we show all the time. So let me just get my chat set up over here. All right, so let's just get started, shall we? The commander of Yonkers has the name Captain Blood, and he supervises most of the murders. The highest temple of Satan is located at redacted Yonkers. Here's a partial list of those with the highest ranks. Jack Cassara, High Priest. Nan Cassara, High Priestess and family, redacted. The Wicker Street Gang with Captain Blood, redacted Yonkers. The House of Horror, the Carr Gang, Sam Carr, alias First Lieutenant Tinker, Francine Francis Carr, and finally John Wheat Carr, Johnny Rape Slayer. So, of course, this is the actual cult that existed. It was in his own head. This was just crazy shit. He thought Jack Cassara, his landlord, and his ex-landlords from New Rochelle, he put them into the cult of people controlling him. Of course, the Wicker Street Gang at 18 Wicker Street was the beautiful Netto family. And, of course, the House of Horrors, the Carr Gang, with Sam Carr, with his alias and little nickname that Berkowitz made up for him. And of course, John Carr, who Berkowitz didn't know. And there's his little nickname for him as well. See, when you start to look at things in context, right? When you look at Johnny Rape Slayer in context with First Lieutenant Tinker and Jack Cassara as the High Priest, you start to realize that Maury Terry left out a lot of context in order for us to understand that Berkowitz was just batshit crazy about, especially vis-a-vis the Carr family. And I've shown it a million times, but we're going to show it again. He found the names in the phone book. There's John Wheat Carr right there for the whole world, for all the people of the world to see. And then we have here the same thing, John Wheat Carr, but he knew them. He was best friends with John and Michael. He dated Wheat Carr, so he had to know all of them. Well, if that's true, then how come he didn't know that John and Wheat were two separate people? Also, how come Wheat's name is nowhere to be found in any of these letters if he so-called knew them? And if he so-called knew Michael Carr, why is Michael Carr's name not in any of these letters? It's just the name of the people that he could find in the phone book. I mean, how much simpler do we have to get with this stuff? I mean, morons, come on. So this is the next letter in the thing, and it's kind of crappy looking, like it's hard to see and read. So what I did was just kind of let your eyes bathe in on this craziness, and then we're gonna read it. I typed it out. So it starts with person, right? Because it's obviously this is a second page of some other letter. The first page of which was not in this apartment files. Remember, I'm just showing you what's in those files. In the file that says Berkowitz Apartment Letters, and we're going in sequential order. Okay. Person. Trying to love people, to make friends, to help someone. Someone needs me for nice things. I wanted to be a good man, but in reality, this is not possible since in my soul I am thoroughly evil. Deliver me the souls of those chosen to die, commands the demons of 2150 Holland Avenue. The demon dogs cry out in the alleyway, David, David, kill someone for today for us. Bring us their blood and souls so that we may dine and bathe in their death. Although my mission is comparatively minor, it has taken Jack Cassara and Satan over 22 years to form me into the soldier servant that they so desire. So first of all, so I missed the is there. So although my mission is comparatively minor, so here he is saying it's Jack Cassara and Satan gave him his mission. Here's the 22 again. So not too hard to figure out where he got 22 disciples of hell from. It was his age when he was doing his freaking crimes. Here he is talking, and so I did a story called a video with Eric called Interlude during our Psychiatric Sunday, and it was about how his apartment letters really mimicked a lot of the letters that he sent to Abrahamson, and this was one of those letters that I showed in that show because he talks about 2150 Holland Avenue, which was allegedly the building where he shot a dog and there were dogs. And there's a little problem with the geography, though, because someone pointed out there's actually a street in between Holland and Barnes. So he wouldn't have been facing the back of Holland Avenue. So there is something a little bit strange with this, but he seemed obsessed with Holland Avenue, and he kept on talking about Holland Avenue to Jack Jones and all these people. So like he must have had something with Holland Avenue. So here we go. So Maury tells Leifer Wheat introduced Berkowitz to John and Michael, but Berkowitz never mentions Wheat in his letters. Exactly. The people who aren't in the phone book are just mysteriously not named in his letters. So then, of course, we get up here, which echoes the latest, one of the more recent Killer Tape podcasts about how he wanted to be good. He wanted to do good things. He wanted to be a good citizen, a good Samaritan. He wanted to help people. So it's all here in this weird letter, which they found in his apartment, but which kind of echoes the truth, really. This is a very interesting letter in that regard. All right. Dear God. So here's this letter to God. I beg you with mercy, with pleading from the depths of my heart to have mercy on the people of Yonkers for our sins. Please, God, don't let us suffer anymore. We beg of you, God, to destroy the creatures of Redacted. We have suffered greatly at their ruthless hands, and we will all die from their tortures. Our heads are splitting at our seams. Our bodies are bruised and battered, yet still stands. Yet Redacted still stands, sorry. Murders, slaughters, death to the innocent unborn, demands the landlord of Redacted. Oh God, may the wicked children of Captain Blood die. Let us live in freedom from them. Let peace reign. So book club brings up a point today, which we're actually going to book club. I'm actually going to play some of that audio on today's show. It didn't warrant its own show, but it definitely can be part of the context of today. So yeah, we'll be hearing some of this stuff today. So yeah, so he's caught talking to God here. And again, it doesn't really matter whether he was technically really insane or not. These letters are crazy and they were written by somebody with a sick mind. He must have been high as a kite on this one. I don't know what the hell he's talking about here. This is obviously a part of a larger letter, which is not in the in the file dump there. The beast dressed like a ragamuffin thing, spotted with blood, his hair caked with vomit, constantly pisses in his pants. Sam, stop peeing, says fat, fickle Francis. Phalomorphoraleo phosphorus. Slab. Huh? I actually had to write that out yesterday when I was putting this together, right? Phallomorphoraleo phosphorus. So I'll leave that to somebody with a little bit more patience and to figure out if there's any hidden meaning here. I don't know. That ain't my thing. All right, so let's carry it on. I am killing for one reason, and that is for the honor and service to the Samuel Carr family of Redacted, who have power over the land, the air, and me. For the Carr family, whose goal is to have dominion over all of NYC and Westchester, whose goal is to torture and abuse money, whose goal is to slay the good of the earth, whose goal is to make life intolerable to the people of this world. Moet. The Samuel Carr family is the most wicked and vile family to possess territory in this region. The cruel, selfish, and wicked Carr family demands from me the spilling of innocent blood to feed the dog, to aid Sam's health, and to appease the evil forces to whom they worship. I am at Sam Carr's mercy, for it is him who has control over me and my fate. I am broke. There is no place left for me to go. I cannot afford to move. I am without hope, trapped, enslaved to this dwelling place. I have been placed at the mercy of Samuel Carr. So there's a lot in here. First of all, carrot, just like in the Son of Sam, in the Breslin letter. Dwelling, which is all over the Breslin letter. Of course, honor, which is all over the Borelli letter. Honor, right? Sam Carr is the person who has power over the land, the air, and me. So he was already thinking about this grandiose power trip, right? Like, think about what he ended up telling Maury, that it was the process, that they wanted to create chaos and terror in New York City, over the region of New York City, and then in the wider world by fomenting random shootings and planning it out in Mr. Real Estate's house with Berkowitz and Richie Sparazza. Give me a break. I mean, come on. We see right in here that, like, he's already talking about this whole notion of the Carr family having dominion and power over NYC. He's even talking about the spilling of innocent blood to feed the dog, right? So all of the later tropes that came in and memes that came into play during the whole process, whatever the hell he was doing with Maury, he must have been having an amazing fun time totally trolling Maury. Just think about how much that must have just delighted Disco Dave Berkowitz. But the later tropes that came out about the process are all found in this letter. That it's the evil forces. They wanted to make the dominion over all of NYC, torture and abuse, the slay the good of the earth, life intolerable for the people of this world. So anyway, and of course, Berkey from the Bronx, as we said before, could easily write honor with an OU because he did it here. I mean, this has nothing to do with John Carr because he was in the pipe band. I mean, give me a break, Moet. John Carr was in the pipe band, so therefore that's why in Borelli letter, there's an honor here. Yeah, does that sound like Berkey from the Bronx to you? Doesn't sound like Berkey from the Bronx to me. Honor, pipe band. Yeah, right. We all know what Maury Terry was doing with the pipe band. I got a pipe band for you right over here. All right. So anyhow. All right. So let's carry on. And so this is kind of the same thing. I kill for Samuel Carr and his blood monster. If anybody doubts the existence of the two, then let him go to Redacted and view that old horror house. Then look at old ugly Samuel Carr. Then venture behind the house and gaze into the backyard. There you will see, if you're unlucky, the monster. So, of course, talking about behind the house, you're going to look at his old victims of the house, behind the house. And, of course, in the Borelli letter, behind our house, some rest, mostly young, raped and slaughtered. Right. So, even in his apartment letters, he was already coming up with the whole notion of behind our house, resting, look behind the house, gaze in the back of the house. He's talking about that in the entire Borelli letter was tying me up to the back of the house and so on and so forth. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, my suggestion to the morons at this point is take the L, bros, and move on because, like, I mean, what are you doing now? This is your belief in this is just like a 5-year-old's belief in the tooth fairy and someone's belief in Santa Claus. I mean, this is just like totally ridiculous already. I mean, get me a piece of proof that actually means something that's actionable in court. Let's have a discussion. All right. So this is interesting, and so this is the attention Suffolk Police, PDNY, and press. I'm not quite sure what PDNY is. Maybe Police Department of New York. I'm not quite sure. What's his face? Book Club. If you're in the audience, what's PDNY? Now, in the files, there was no Suffolk letter to police. Okay, so I wasn't gonna add it, but at the last minute, I put it in because I figured, well, why get you all hot and bothered showing you the envelope to this, and then we don't read it. So this is a little excursion beyond the apartment letters, but so what? Are there any rules like, So Dave, just real quick, yeah, we're gonna be hearing these. I mean, feel free to chat and have fun, but we're gonna I don't want to give too much away. We're gonna be hearing the audio in today's show. All right. So of course this is the letter that was found in his car that was addressed to the Suffolk police. It was the last letter allegedly that he wrote right before he was arrested. The first Saturday of August, 1977. I must get this job done. This is the last assignment, the last mission. Once it is finished, I will be of no use to Sam Carr and I will be destroyed. I do not fear death, for I do not wish to go back to my apartment, ever. Never again will I have to give my life to Craig. However, I will do my best to come out of this alive because, as one columnist said, quote, someone must pay for these horrendous crimes, unquote. From the Bronx to Watermill, New York, no soul shall be safe. I would also like to meet with the task force personally. Not that I have anything to say to them, but it's only fair we meet face to face. I wonder if they will take me on a brief tour of the war room. Perhaps the hidden secrets of the Carr house will never be known. Those hideous blood monsters who lurk in the woodwork and under the rotting floorboards. Yes, they will still live on. At this time, Craig is awaiting anxiously by his TV, ready to take command. Bullets crackle in a quiet town. The sounds of running feet and screams of anguish fill the air. Huge streams of blood travel down curvious buttocks, bosoms bouncing, bullets flying into the night, coldly seeking flesh and bone. Yes, yet it's terror in the night. Sergeant Craig is terror. Who has wrought the wrath to this town? Where is the great Lord Bloomingdale's, their savior? Why has God forsaken this place? For truly there has never been peace in the Hamptons. Inner peace, I mean. They aren't a sensual people, but they are filled with bags and I don't know what that says, and jealousy, rage and jealousy. So let New Yorkers everywhere gather together, gather to battle the unseen. Now, before I go to the next page, there's too much on here. I have to comment on. First of all, Craig is here, right? Anxiously awaiting by his TV. So that's an allusion to Craig's loud television, right? Now, there was something that I was reading here. Bullets crackle. and hold on. Bullets crackle. Huge streams travel down curvious buttocks. Bouncing bullets. Okay, yeah, right here. Okay, so remember the huge streams. Remember the Craig is Craig letter that supposedly John Carr wrote, and Berkey stole the words, and it was called, and one of those lines was, and huge drops of lead poured down on her head until she was dead. Well, here we have huge streams of blood travel down curvious buttocks, right? So there we have that whole image of huge streams of things, right? So there's that other thing. Here we have Savior spelled with an OU, just like thanks book club. I saw your thing. I appreciate that. Savior dressed spelt just like in the British. So Berkey from the Bronx. You need to circle jerk a pipe band in order to get the freaking British lettering. I mean, give me a break. All right, so let's carry on. So let's let New Yorkers everywhere gather together. Gather to battle the unseen forces that roam their neighborhoods at night and seek to imprison their children in coffins. Let them hunt down the son of Sam and the mysteries thereof. Truly, nobody knows what time it is, for the end of Sam is drawing nigh. Yet the police continue to hunt and trap. Inspector continues to work feverishly trying to unravel the mystery, but would he dare to believe that by sunrise of the next morning he will be holding that 44? The curtain always closes quickly when the stars walk off or die. In the aftermath, the Hamptons Chamber of Commerce will have to count their dead and file a report. Reporters will be swarming the streets, snapping pictures of dark red spots on the ground which symbolize where people once stood. Perhaps a big, tall cop with an empty 38 will be playfully kicking in the ribs of the son of Sam with his shiny boot. Hell, he'll be enjoying those sadistic delights, and he'll be looking on with satisfaction at his prize catch. In a short time, things will be back to normal, and if you go into a lover's lane at night, you'll be able to hear the squeaks and dozens of car springs squeaking in unison. Then you will know that there is peace in the world. All right, so first of all, a bunch of stuff. Let me go to the page before. Now, I'm doing this in real time, some of it, because I never read the whole thing. Truly nobody knows. Here, children in coffins. So there's the word coffin. So knock on coffins. I'm not saying it's a direct link, but he did use the word coffins in letters. Children, mysteries thereof. Yet the police continue to hunt and trap. 44. This looks again just like the 44 on the Weir House on the aqueduct. I still think that he wrote that. Here's a carrot from the Son of Sam Breslin letter. Okay. All right, let's carry on. And then, of course, here with this whole notion of the big, tall cop with an empty 38 will be playfully kicking in the ribs of the son of Sam. That's echoed in the Breslin letter. Perhaps we shall meet face to face, or someday, or perhaps I will be blown away by cops with smoking 38s. Right? So it's just like he just evolves in his writing. Okay. So empty 38s, playfully kicking in the ribs, and then he has being blown away by the cops with smoking 38s. Sam the Terrible is in one of the letters from his apartment. I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous at this point. So last couple of letters here, and nothing much to really report on. It's just kind of strange. Dear Nan and Jake, his old landlords, God will punish you for what you have done. All right. I mean, imagine getting a letter like that in the mail. And then finally, the last image in the Queen's DA file for the Berkowitz letters is this heavily redacted address of Sam Carr, 20th of April, 1977. So this is, again, April 77 is a pivotal month in the Son of Sam saga. That's when he started going really, really crazy. Now, speaking of which, so you guys have been talking about it in the chat, and I was made aware of this by Dave Moth the other day, who sent me the link. And I thought that this actually is these few excerpts are appropriate for today's discussion, because he's talking about writing the Breslin and Borelli letters. So if the moron needed even more proof, right? If you didn't believe the ironclad, totally unimpeachable evidence that we've shown in over numerous videos by now, not one person has come to me yet to prove me wrong about it, or to debate me, or to show where I got it wrong, or an error, and all that kind of stuff. If you needed any more proof, it just came in the newest episode of Killer Tapes. And so this didn't rise to its own pop-up or its own show, but it definitely is food for thought for today's discussion. So let's listen to a few excerpts from let me just get it a little bigger here. Sorry. Let's listen to a few excerpts from here in Berkowitz's own words, talking about the letter, and then I'll react to. There's only 3 clips. It's about 5 minutes of audio, though, so just sort of chill out and get yourselves ready. All right. So his inspiration for the letters.
Bored with murder and dead set on squeezing every last drop of publicity he possibly could from his crimes, David Berkowitz had begun a sort of ad hoc writing career. Of course, he was certainly not the first serial killer to do this. To this end, Jack asked Berkowitz where he got the idea, suggesting that maybe he got it from the notorious serial killer known as Jack the Ripper.
Did you get the idea for this kind of writing?
From the Jack the Ripper book.
So Jack Ripper book. Okay.
Daniel or Donald Rumblau's Jack the Ripper book. It said in the book, and I even had this underlined in my copy that was in my apartment, a small paperback book. It said that there's, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's about these so-called psychopaths that always continue to write the police or the news media. It mentioned the Ripper, and Rumblau, or whatever his name was, said that there was a great many of these so-called killers that have a need to flaunt their crimes and write the news media or the police and things, and I got it right after that, because I had that book even before the shooting started.
So there's so much there to unpack. Oh my God, it's just ridiculous. So he had the book before the shooting started. He got inspiration from that book. He named the author like right off the top of his head. He couldn't get it quite right, but he got it right. Daniel Rumbelau. It's clear he was telling the truth here. So this is just more evidence that this guy was getting like ideas from different killers and reading his true crime novels and his true crime articles that D Channel was sending him, especially about Arliss Perry. All this stuff that we talked about on Psychiatric Sunday is now coming to fruition with these Killer Tape podcasts, because we're getting it in his own words. So notice that nowhere in this interview with Jack Jones does he say, letter? What are you talking? I didn't write that letter. What are you talking about? I had help. You had help? Yeah, I had help. Well, who helped you? Well, Wheat gave me the inspiration. John gave me the words, and none other than Bill, Baron, Michael gave me the letters. He wrote it. I mean, nowhere does he say any of this. He's like, what are you, crazy? I didn't write this letter. Like he's freely talking about the letter. He's like, I wrote it. All right. So now it goes even further. He talks about the handwriting of the letter.
When I mailed the second letter to Jimmy Breslin, this is how he recognized it, because of the first letter. The first letter was never publicized, and no one ever saw the writing. But the police, of course, kept it. And when Jimmy Breslin got this strange letter out of the blue, he got the letter, I think, a few weeks after that shooting, or a month after the shooting, you see. And when he took the letter over to the police, the heads of the investigation, he says, well, what do you think of this letter? And they read immediately the handwriting, the way it was, remember, if you recall, set it apart, and they knew that was the second letter. Those were the 2 letters.
Why did you choose Breslin to send the stuff to?
I needed somebody. There was no real particular reason. Not that he was any good at anything, Seemed to have. He ran a few columns about the earlier crimes. He expressed more interest than any one reporter from the other papers. And so he ran the columns, and I had read a couple of his books that he'd written in the past about organized crime. And so I wrote to him. There's no real reason.
Quote, I wrote Mr. Breslin because he was obsessed with the shootings. That was evidenced in his columns and how he wrote about them. I also wanted him to write about Donna Lauria because the newspapers did not cover her properly. They just had Donna down as a name. Pattern of the shootings were not figured out until much later, that all the shootings were connected. And after that, when people got shot, they got all the publicity. Before they figured out the pattern, nobody wrote that much about the victims, and I didn't want Donna to be forgotten. I felt a mystical attachment to her that I can't explain. I didn't think Mr. Breslin would ever publicize what I wrote him, but I wanted him to remember Donna Lauria. I wanted him to write about Donna. It wasn't because of any feeling of sorrow on my part. I simply don't know what sorrow is. End quote.
So Berkowitz, of course, is sick. He doesn't know what sorrow is. He's obsessed with Donna Lauria, wants to get her name out for some weird reason. He's very cognizant of the fact of something that I reported, not that it was a major revelation, but that the first letter was not printed. We went over that, and that's even more proof that he wrote it, because in that first letter, the Borelli letter, there's tons of references that we just saw some, right, in his apartment letters. So like, oh yeah, he had help. Yeah, Mike Baron Karkowski car was in his apartment every day telling him what to write. 7:15 in the morning on the morning that he shot Voskerichian, Bale Varon was in his freaking apartment there, waking up next to him. Oh yeah, write about this. I'm going to give you the words to this. John Carr was there. For some reason I call him Jellyhead again. Sorry, that was just like an autonomic nervous system thing. For some reason, John Carr was there talking about Craig is Craig. I mean, give me a break, guys. Here he is telling you that he wrote them. The handwriting comparison was his. He even specifically talks about the handwriting as an identifying feature of his letters. So, I mean, give me a break already. And we already talked about Charles Hamilton being a total fraud. So Book Club brings up a couple interesting an interesting thing here. Now we know it's historical fact that Berkowitz went to the Peachtree Disco. He was eyewitness there. We had the DJ on specifically who saw him, who Berkowitz introduced him. He shook his hand. He's been telling the story ever since Son of Sam. It's not like he just made it up now and just remembered it. Berkowitz was at the Peachtree for weeks before the shooting of Donna Lauria. So it is within what Book Club says here is absolutely within the realm of possibility. Is it a fact? We don't know that to be a fact. No. And even Book Club will say this is just a perhaps, right? But it's interesting to see how he keeps mentioning Donna. So, just the fact alone that show we did with DJ Tony Amato should have changed things for the moron. That was massive news that Berkowitz was at the Peachtree. I mean, this is game-changing information, right? Like this is huge. But it just seems to go over people's heads. It's kind of crazy. I mean, a lot of people, they criticize me. They're like, Manny, you used to believe in Maury Terry's theory. What happened? And I say to them, the truth happened. It's like I wasn't stuck on one theory. I was a Maury Terry fan. I loved The Ultimate Evil, but I wasn't a cultist. As soon as new information came out that proved him wrong, that's where I went. It's nothing more complex than that. All right, so let's carry on. We have two more excerpts to get to, and this is, of course, an excerpt on why he wrote the Son of Sam
Regardless
letters.
of whether the letters held any kind of literary merit, their depiction of New York City at the time did strike a chord with people. But the only thing that David really wants you to know about them is that they weren't crazy. They were written, according to him, in order to encourage the police to catch him. encouragement he felt they needed in order to get the job done.
Well, there weren't crazy letters, by the way. See, people look at them and say the man's deranged madman, but you see, they missed the whole point of the letters. The letters were actually to spur the police on, right? You see, to drive them harder because they see that this is like more serious than it is, you know? It's like to push the police into doing more to catch me. And people miss this. They just see the letters as this guy terrorizing. Yeah, well, I suppose I wanted to call attention to myself, you see, as a criminal, even though nobody knew it was me. But there was so much more that these people, the average person, doesn't ever see.
Despite any deeper meaning people may or may not have missed from the letter, police did manage to lift 2 partial prints that seemed to belong to the killer, although it took them 6 weeks. Later, prints from the letter would match prints taken from David the night he was arrested, as well as from the New York Firearms Control Board print that had been a part of the application for his rifle permit he sent in December of 1975, the same month he attacked 15-year-old Michelle Foreman with a hunting knife.
Now, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking the NYPD here, but we just learned a little bit of information that means that they could have captured this guy a couple months before they did, but they would have had to do the following. They would have had to get those prints off the letter quickly, and then they would have had to compare them to all the prints somehow or other in the New York Control Board, New York City Rifle Permit Control Board, or whatever the hell they called it. And Book Club says they also had his auxiliary prints. So technically, forensically, laboratorily speaking, they had the ability to solve this crime as soon as he mailed that letter into Breslin, as soon as the police had it. But again, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking because, again, it's like print recognition was very archaic back then, as Book Club said. And also think about like the technically the amount of work that would have needed to have been done. It would have been virtually impossible. You know, like which database do we compare this to, guys? Like, all right, we have these partial prints, you know, which database do we go to? Which print database? You know, who's going to say, oh yeah, let's go to the New York City Rifle Print Control Board or whatever it was, right? Or the New York City Auxiliary Police. Now, some detective might have said that, but the simple fact is that they didn't. And I don't consider that to be negligence on the part of the NYPD. All right. So here's a little clip here, which is just a few seconds long, but I think actually out of all of the things that I've ever heard Berkowitz say and the vibe that he gives off, this is probably the sickest and it's the shortest. And see if you can kind of catch this.
So,
No, something's wrong with this one.
I got 6 is in the Bronx, 2 people killed.
Yeah, that's right. I lost track myself.
So they were talking about the victims and the number of victims and the you know how many were there were. And he goes, oh yeah, I lost track myself. I mean, that's sick. Let's listen to that again. Give me a second here. Now that you know what they're saying.
No, something's wrong with this one.
I got 6 is in the Bronx, 2 people killed.
Yeah, that's right. I lost track myself.
I mean, right there just shows you the mindset of this guy. He could not have cared less about his victims. They were nothing to him. They were shit. And I believe he still feels that to this day. I don't think this guy's a Christian. I think that all these people who go up there, the ministering and the ministry of David Brace, total ridiculous. They're just as stupid as the Maury Terry fans. Quite a few of them are Maury Terry fans because, again, Maury Terry turned Berkowitz into a schlubby victim, a patsy, a hapless dupe of international forces gathered around him, directing his hand. That's what the moron believes. It's a freaking farce. I mean, it's absolutely insulting to not only to the victims and the families and all of that, but it's insulting to truth. Anyway, guys, all right, so that's basically it. So right now, what I'm about to start doing, and this is for Catalano and for book club more so than for the rest of the audience, but everyone should know what I'm about to start doing is deep diving into the Christine Freund files. I've been working on these other shows pretty intently, but now we're done with this run of shows. I don't have anything coming up on the immediate horizon, so I'm diving into Freund. Me, book club, and Catalano are going to come up with an awesome show for you. I don't think book club's going to be an on-air personality, but he's certainly consulting behind the scenes. And Catalano and I should be bringing you Christine Freund within the next couple of weeks for sure. And there's going to be a couple of things associated with that video, with that live stream as well. So everyone stay tuned. You never know when I'm going to pop up. I'm going to be studying the Queen's DA stuff and seeing if anything else strikes my fancy. This Killer Tape podcast stuff is gold. Every week we're finding amazing stuff to react to. So we're still in the golden age, but at the same time, how much more can we do, right? I mean, so we're kind of reaching that point again, that inflection point where it's like we're squeezing stories out, and so things are going to slow down a little bit most likely. But I've said that before, and I'll probably say it again. And I usually come out of the gate running even harder. So anyway, I don't even know why. I'm just spewing into the consciousness right now. So it's probably best that we all say goodbye to each other. All right, guys. Well, anyway, listen, thanks everyone for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the Berkowitz Apartment Letters series. Please do your own research. Go and study this stuff. It's incredibly eye-opening. Gives you a whole different perspective of these crimes, because remember, we don't believe the Maury, or I'm not going to say I don't believe the Maury Terry bullshit anymore, but I also don't believe the NYPD story of the talking dog. And so we're getting this amazingly nuanced story now with all this new information. And I'm just very honored that somehow or other I'm the person that's interpreting it all for us. So everyone, I want to say thank you so much. Couldn't be doing it without you, and of course wouldn't be doing it without you. You all make it so worth it. Everyone, have a great rest of the day. I'll be going to watch the Mets lose right now. Take care.